I've been meaning to talk about the Scarlet Thunder for quite some time now, and we're just now getting to it with 18 days left to go in the special event from which you can acquire this ship. That's the Retro Futurism event in the store. The special ships available are the Scarlet Thunder and the Meteor, which we've already covered and which I think is pretty mediocre. Between the two of them, the Meteor, the Tier 8 Soviet destroyer, the Delny clone, and this thing, the Scarlet Thunder, which is kind of a Duncan clone, I'd say this is probably the better choice, but I wouldn't recommend buying it. It costs 25,000 doubloons, and that's a steep price for something that is essentially a copy-paste of a existing tech tree ship with some minor differences. And we'll cover those differences momentarily. I should also say that I've had a terrible time playing the Scarlet Thunder. I believe I've played something like 15 or 20 matches in it over the past 2 weeks, and I'm not being hyperbolic or exaggerating when I say that every single one of them has been a blowout, either in favor of the blue or the red team, and as such, I don't think they were worth showing on YouTube. This battle is also a blowout in favor of the blue team, but I think it demonstrates both the strengths and weaknesses of the Scarlet Thunder, which is why I wanted to show it to you. Now, again, this is basically a copy-paste of the Duncan, but the differences are mostly in the armor scheme and the main battery guns. We'll start with the main battery guns as we shoot our first HE salvo at Atlantico out there and get a fire. The Duncan and the Scarlet Thunder both have 419mm guns, which are essentially glorified 16-inch guns. 419mm doesn't offer you any more overmatch potential, for example, than 406, but maybe it offers you a little bit better pen and theoretically better damage than 406mm guns. Well, not in the case of Scarlet Thunder, I'll tell you that. The Duncan, on its main battery AP, has a maximum AP shell damage of 13,050. Scarlet Thunder, 11,500. That 11.5k value is much more appropriate, I think, to lower tier battleships at, say, tier 7, for example, with 15-inch guns. But these are larger 16-inch guns, so AP, not exactly impressive. HE, however, that seems to be the calling card of the Scarlet Thunder. We've got a very big HE Alpha Strike of 7,200. That's one of the largest HE Alpha Strikes in the game, no doubt. Very British, and the fire chance on the Scarlet Thunder is 48%. For comparison's sake, the Duncan's HE is also good, with a maximum damage of 6,150, and the fire chance is 47%. So what we have here is improved HE, but much worse AP. On the other hand, the survivability of both ships is the same. They both have the same number of hit points at 72,190, but the Duncan has an overmatchable bow and stern plating of either 25 or 26 millimeters. The Scarlet Thunder, on the other hand, gets 32mm bow and stern plating, so that, at the very least, means the bow and the stern can't be overmatched by the likes of anything other than Musashi or Yamato, which you will see from time to time. However, I think it's crucial to point out that overmatch is simply a rule in the game. That means the AP shell essentially ignores armor. It's not the same thing as penetration. Just because 32mm cannot be overmatched by anything other than 460mm guns does not mean that that armor value cannot be penetrated by battleship caliber AP. It absolutely can. You can angle the 32mm plating to prevent penetrations. However, if you're not angled well enough, you'll still get penned and you'll still get damaged. And of course, 32mm of armor is nothing when it comes to HE focus. There's plenty of HE at tier 8, tier 7, legendary tier that pens 32mm of armor no problem. And if you find yourself suffering under the withering hail of the HE, well then, you will be melted quite quickly. Now, you do have a super heal. The Duncan gets, I think, 2 of them base. You can increase that to 4 with Master Mechanic. The heal does 1,247 HP per second for a total of 20 seconds, and it's very good at restoring any light damage, i.e. fire damage, which is 100% healable. However, it seems to me that when it comes to AP pen damage and Citadel damage, this super heal is not like, for example, the Minotaurs or the Brisbanes. I believe both of those heal more Citadel damage and more AP pen damage than the typical heal. Doesn't seem to be the case for this one. There are times where if you're taking a lot of AP pen damage or Citadels, well, then you're not going to be able to use the full potential of these heals. And these heals come with a whopping 120-second cooldown time. That's 2 minutes to wait for these heals to come back online. That is an incredibly long time for a heal to come back. Now, the Duncan has the same thing, but the typical heal is an 80-second cooldown. So, much worse here. And if you do this, what I'm doing here, this is a massive mistake that I think is worth pointing out. We're pushing into this cap here. We've got the broadsides of the Plymouth and the Rodney, who have also pushed into the cap, but we saw prior to pushing into the cap that both the Dalian and the Maine were sailing in this direction, which means we are at risk of being in a crossfire between the Rodney, the Maine, the Dalian, and the Plymouth if he were still alive. Luckily, he's been sent back to port. Rodney, like the Plymouth, is also making a similar error for reasons that are beyond me. I don't understand the tendency of players to instantly push into the center of the map upon spawn. I think it's probably a better idea, generally speaking, to go out on the flanks like we did, because then it'll offer you an opportunity to get the broadsides of ships pushing into the center, which we were able to capitalize on with the Rodney and the Plymouth. But you see there, the Rodney does a tremendous amount of damage to us with the AP. I think he might actually have gotten a Citadel. The Scarlet Thunder Citadel is the size of some cruisers in the game, much like Duncan's, so it's very easy to hit and penetrate. Probably one of the more dev-strikeable ships at the tier if it's giving broadside, and even if it's not, well, if you're not properly angled, you can expect the Citadel to be hit. And, well, you see we're melting here under the Maine and the Dalian. This is our own fault. If you push in right toward a bunch of ships like this that can all focus you down, you can expect to be melted. We shouldn't have pushed in here, but I wanted to show you this because you might be thinking, well, the 32 millimeters of armor offers you so much more protection than the Duncan. Not really. Not when we're getting melted by HE and getting penned everywhere by the Maine and the Rodney and the Plymouth. We go down pretty easily. And we go down faster than we can make use of the long cooldown on the super heal of 120 seconds. So, you know, we got the high caliber here. The guns can pump out the damage, even with the rather anemic alpha strike on the AP. The HE is very good. The maneuverability is likewise all right. This thing is fast, sort of like the Duncan, albeit a little bit slower than the Duncan. We have a 33 knot top speed here, whereas the Duncan, I think, has 34. Duncan also has an engine boost. We don't, so John Fisher might not be the best commander to use, since you can't make use of his full potential without having an engine boost. And I just don't think this is a ship worth buying. It's fine. It's not offensively bad or anything. It's an all-right ship, but you can get a similar experience if you just grind the Duncan at Tier 8 for free. And you might have overmatchable bow and stern plating, but what you also have on the Duncan that is absent from the Scarlet Thunder is those bow-launched nuclear missile torpedoes that do 29,000 damage. Duncan's got 2 of those things on the bow, so if you do push in, even if your bow is overmatchable, well, you can surprise people with those very hard-hitting torpedoes. You don't have the same ability here on the Scarlet Thunder. And so the entire time I was playing this ship, I thought, well, it's okay. It's not maybe as mediocre as I think the Meteor is, but at the end of the day, I think I'd rather be playing the Duncan. So, hope you enjoyed the video. If so, give it a thumbs up, consider subscribing if you haven't already, and I'll see you next time. Goodbye.